Hi, this is Mr. Aguilar, and welcome to Illustrator Basics. This is day 2 or part 2 of the exercise. In the first video, we went over how to create these basic shapes, add color, give it a stroke. But now we're going to look about modifying shapes to create different shapes. This is going to lead into future exercises where we can take multiple shapes and put them together and join them together into one unique shape. But first we need to learn how to modify things. So here's our second artboard, which we're going to be working on. So I'm going to zoom in real fast into here so we can see it up close and work on it. And let me move it out. And I'm just going to reduce that down. Okay, so we're going to start. And we're going to start again with the basic rectangle. Now there is a rounded rectangle tool, but I want to show you this one so you can have a little bit more control. What we're going to do is we're going to create a perfect square. By pressing Shift and Alt, you can create a perfect square. And just smooth that and lower it down. Now, the black arrow is the path selection. It selects the entire path. The white arrow, or A button, is a direct selection, meaning I can select one point if I wish to. In this case, I want to select all 4 points. So I'm just going to drag outside of it a rectangular shape. And when I have all 4 points selected, you're going to see 1, 2, 3, 4 modifiers. So with everything selected, I just need to drag one and I can pull it down, and you can see how I can modify the roundness of this shape. So that's the first thing we're going to do. We're going to learn how to modify everything and then just do specifics. So the next thing I want to do is I want to make a perfect triangle. Well, how do we do that? Let's go into our shape tools and go to our polygon tool. And I'm going to double click. And I'm going to have this set to 3 sides because 3 sides make a triangle. And here I go, I have a perfect triangle. Now using the Shift and Alt key, I'm just going to resize this to make it a little bit smaller because I want to fit 3 more across the board. So with the path selection, all the points have been selected. So I'm going to go to the direct selection path, which is the white arrow. And with all 3 points selected, I can go to my modifier and you can see how it's going to round out each of the corners. So what if I just want to modify part of it? So let me double click again, making 3. I'm going to go to my black arrow, which is V, and I'm going to use Shift and Alt again. I'm just going to resize this. And I'd like to take this opportunity to show you another feature. By pressing Alt, I'm going to get these double arrows, one black and one white, and this will allow me to copy. Now, as I drag, if I hit Shift, it'll constrain it so it doesn't go over all over the place. If I take off the Shift button, you can see how you can move it around, but Shift will lock it into place. So I have 2 new triangles. On this one, I'm going to use my white arrow, the direct selection tool, and I'm just going to select that top point. So you only see one modifier. You don't see the other 2. And I'm just going to drag down. And that gives me a rounded top, but keeps my bottom parts as points. Now what I want to do is I want to select the bottom 2 points, and I'm just going to modify these 2. So notice the third one is not selected. There is no modifier. And by dragging this in, I can create a teardrop shape. So these are some of the things that we're going to be doing. We're going to be modifying shapes. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to be modifying a polygon. So I'm going to go to my polygon shape, and I'm going to double click. This time I want 6. I'm going to click OK. Again, a little bit too big, so I'm just going to reduce these down. And I want the flat top and bottom to be on the side. So I'm going to select it, and then when you go out to the corner, you'll see this half circle with the 2 arrows. That's to rotate. And if I hit the Shift key, it's going to constrain my rotation to 45-degree angle chunks. This way you don't have to worry about it being slightly off. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select it with my black arrow, which again is the path selection, so it selects the entire path. I'm going to go to my white arrow, and you're going to see that all the modifiers are now present. And I'm going to drag down and you can see how those shapes are rounded. But we want to do the same thing we did up here. We want to modify certain points on this. So I'm going to double click. I'm going to click OK. I'm going to reduce the size down. I'm going to hit Shift and rotate it. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do the same thing we did up here. I'm going to press Alt, drag, and then hit Shift. And I want to make myself some other copies. Alt, drag, and then Shift. And now I can do some other modifications. So on this one, what I'd like to do is I want to select these top 3 points. So I'm just going to drag this in a rectangular shape over those 3 points. And notice these 3 are modified and this ones are not. So I'm just going to drag this down. Now, what if I want to modify these 2? So I'm going to come up, I'm back in my white arrow, and I'm just going to select over the top and bottom, and then I'm going to drag it down, and I get that shape. On this one, I want to do these 4 points. So they make a rectangle. So again, with my white arrow, I'm just going to drag a rectangular shape over those 4 points. Notice the top and the bottom are not selected, just these 4 are. And I'm going to drag this in. And again, you're going to see how we can create some unique shapes just by modifying our basic shape that we started off with. In our next exercise, we're going to use the star tool. And for this first one, I want 7 points. I'm going to double click. I'm going to say I want 7. Click OK. And again, it gave me this funky shape because I had already used the shape tool before. And so now I'm going to have to switch it up. So I'm going to hit delete. What I'm going to do is go back to my star tool, and I'm just going to draw it out with Shift. And that'll give me my points. Now, what happens in Illustrator is it remembers the last thing you did, and it repeats that feature. So I'm going to show you how to get to that different star in just a second. So with the entire star selected, I'm going to go to my white arrow again, and you can see how every corner now has a modifier. So I'm just going to go and select, and you can see how you can change both the outside and the inside points, and you can make this rounded shape almost like a gear. Let's go to what we just did by accident. So I have my star shape. I already have 7 sides on it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to press Alt while dragging. And while I do that, you can see how I get that kind of fatter star, or the star without all the points into it. If I do it again, I'm going to hit Shift, and that's going to take me back to that one. So just a little quirk in Illustrator that you can use to create different types of stars. And I want to show you how to modify this one slightly different than we did here. So I'm going to press Alt, I'm going to drag, hit Shift, and I'm going to duplicate this star shape. Now I'm going to go back to my white arrow with the A button, and I want to select different points and modify them. So I'm going to start with this top one, and using the Shift key and the up arrow, I'm just going to make a taller spike. Now this is where you have to remember what you're doing when you make changes. So I'd like to make changes to these 2 points, and I have to do it one at a time. So I'm going to press Shift, right arrow twice, down arrow twice. I'm going to come over here, select that point. I'm going to hit Shift, left arrow twice, and down twice. And now you can see we kind of got this little spaceship type shape. So when you're modifying these shapes, you can select different points or specific areas to modify while leaving the rest of the shape alone. The last trick I want to show you, and we're going to learn a new tool, and I want to do this because this builds into the next exercise. I'm going to go back to my star feature. I'm going to double click because I want 10. Click OK. So now I have my 10-pointed star. I want to get rid of the stroke, so I'm going to select the stroke to bring it forward. And then this white box with the red stripe, that's going to eliminate the stroke. Bring my color back to the front by clicking on it. I'm going to change it, so I'm going to go into my swatches and I'm going to make this a charcoal color because I'm going to make some changes and adaptations to this. So first of all, I'm going to select the entire star. I'm going to hit my white arrow, so I go to my direct selection. I'm going to do the same thing I did to this one up here. And I just want to drag it all the way up. And I kind of make this gear shape. And what I'm going to do is make this into a bottle cap. So I want to go back into my shape tools. I want to go to the ellipse. If I hover over this, you'll see a center point. Now, by pressing Shift and Alt, I can make a perfect circle from the center. And I'm going to make that a slightly lighter gray so you can see it. And what I like to do is have a second circle on top of this. Now, there's two ways I can do this. One, I can click on this. I can go Control C for copy, Control F to paste in front, and I'll make it lighter so you can see it. And then I can use my Shift and Alt keys to resize it from center. And I have another circle that's perfectly in the middle. The other way to do this is to simply go back to my ellipse tool, find that center point again, Shift and Alt, and drag out my circle. So either way, it doesn't matter. Now, the new tool I want to show you is the blend tool. And this is how we can make gradients or modify shapes, modify lines. The blend tool has a lot of features to it. I'm just introducing you to it right now. We'll get into it in the future. So I'm going to select all of these. So I have the three shapes selected. I'm going to go to Object. I'm going to go to Blend. I'm going to go to Blend Options. And what I want to do is I want to have it set to smooth color. So you'll see you have specified steps, specified distance, and smooth color. So I want that smooth color. And I'm going to click OK. Well, nothing's happened. Well, all we did was select, adjust and select the parameters of what we wanted to do. So I'm going to go into Object. I'm going to go back into Blend, and I'm going to go Make. Now, the shortcut for this is Alt-Control-B. And if you use this a lot, it's just easier to use the shortcut. But when I select it, you can see what it did. It blended all three colors, and it gave you the illusion of a three-dimensional bottle cap. Very simple. Just want to introduce you to that blend tool. What I'd like you to do, and let me zoom out. I'd like you to recreate these shapes. So we have the basic square using Shift and Alt, and then we rounded out all four corners. We made a triangle by going to the Polygon and selecting three sides. We modified all three corners. We made another one. We modified the top. We made another one, and we modified the bottom two. So just go through the video at your own pace. Pause it as you need to when you guys are making these shapes. Again, remember, we're learning the foundations, the very basics of Illustrator, and we're going to use this knowledge to create more complex illustrations and designs moving ahead into the future. So till next time, this is Mr. Aguilar. I hope you guys got something out of this video and prepare to move on to our next lesson.